And welcome to Hannity. A historic day at the White House today. We'll get to that in a minute. Also tonight, D.C.'s federal crime crackdown. It is working big time, but across the country, more shame for Gavin Newsom in the United Socialist Utopia, California, where an illegal immigrant obtained a commercial driver's license before killing 3 on a highway with his tractor trailer. We'll check in with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem will weigh in tonight. Also, James Comey has some thoughts, not on his atrocious behavior, but on being a weird Taylor Swiftie. Beyond bizarre. Take a look.
You see, Taylor Swift and I go way back. I went to my first concert of hers 15 years ago. I've been to a second, and I have helped financially support the attendance of a lot of family members at others.
You are a very weird man. Anyway, coming up, we'll explore Mr. Higher Loyalty's pathetic fall from grace. But first tonight, huge historic news from the White House. Peace between Russia and Ukraine is now a real possibility. There's a lot of ground to cover. I don't want to be overly optimistic. We don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. But all of it thanks to President Trump. Unlike every other world leader, he was able to pull this off. Unlike every other world leader, he's willing to expend political capital. Now, pause for a moment and think about how historic this really is. On Friday, we were in Alaska. That's less than 3 days ago. President Trump was in Alaska meeting with Vladimir Putin. Putin hadn't been on U.S. soil in 10 years. And just 48 hours later, the commander-in-chief did something that no other president would even dream of or even be willing to take a risk on. Take a look at your screen. He got all major NATO leaders to drop everything they were doing, take a weekend transatlantic flight to Washington, D.C. for this huge meeting at the White House with the Ukrainian President Zelensky. Now, these world leaders are now all praising Trump's commitment to peace. Take a look.
I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call. And from there, we are now where we are today, and that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this.
I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you.
I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. And I think the fact that we're around this table today is very much symbolic in the sense that it's Team Europe and Team United States helping Ukraine.
Now, remember, it was only Friday that Trump haters and the state-run legacy media mob, the Democratic Party, they were telling you, every American, that Trump's peace negotiations with Putin were an embarrassment, a failure. He got schooled. Now, Senator Chris Murphy calling the meeting a disaster for the war in Ukraine, an embarrassment for our country. You know, few thought that Donald Trump could pull it off. Here it is Monday, and look at all the people. They're all at the White House. Why were all of Europe's leaders at the White House praising President Trump in less than 3 short days? He's moving at the speed of Trump. Now, the left in this country has been rooting for Trump to fail on every front and for this horrible war to what? Continue? More dying, more death? As President Trump pointed out, he could negotiate a total unconditional surrender from Vladimir Putin, and we could get a Moscow and St. Petersburg and more, and the left would still be unhappy. Take a look.
I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say I made a bad deal. The level of hatred and animosity is incredible. Not with all. I mean, we have great people up here. We also have terrible people up there that I think are told what to say. But, you know, in solving all of these wars, they don't even write about it.
Now, let's temper expectations here. Make no mistake, there's still no guarantee that a peace deal is imminent or will even happen. But what we can report tonight is there are major territorial decisions to be made, including the Donetsk region. But everyone is on agreement on one key issue. They're all, you know, they all want the killing to stop. By the way, don't you? Don't you think it's time? How many more Russian soldiers need to die? How many more innocent men, women, and children in Ukraine have to die? Take a look.
We've had a very successful day thus far, and important discussions as we work to end the killing and stop the war in Ukraine. We're all working for the same goal, very simple goal. We want to stop the killing, get this settled.
Now, for all you Trump derangement syndrome people out there, there's only one person in the free world that could get this done and get this close to a possibility of a lasting peace, and that's President Trump. He did force Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table. He used 4 very key measures, as I see it, to get that accomplished. He started selling the sophisticated U.S. weapons to NATO and Ukraine. In other words, okay, Vladimir, you don't want to play ball fast enough? Let me get your attention this way. Number 2, he signed that economic agreement, the trade agreement with the European Union that included nearly $1 trillion in guaranteed purchases of American energy. In other words, that's $1 trillion worth of oil and gas that will not be coming into Europe from Russia funding Putin's war machine. Number 3, President Trump got NATO members to more than double their military commitment to 5% of their GDP. And number 4, he hit Putin where it hurts, implementing a massive tariff on India, 50% if they buy Russian oil. With those 4 steps and the threat of more tariffs to other countries that do business with Russia, those are the severe consequences President Trump was talking about. The president is working very fast to clean up what has been a disaster in Ukraine, of course, created by Western Europe themselves and by Joe Biden in particular. You know, Joe Biden never even picked up a phone when Vladimir Putin was amassing military equipment and troops at Ukraine's border, and it was going on for month after month. Many European countries continue to spend lavishly on Russian oil and gas, making Putin rich. In other words, funding his war machine, all while nixing their own power plants in the name of, quote, climate change, despite Trump's dire warning. Remember the white flag of surrender that he gave then German Chancellor Merkel. Europe even tried to lecture President Trump, you know, just before the meeting with Putin about how he should negotiate. Their arrogance, appalling. None of them could accomplish what Donald Trump has accomplished to this point. At least we're talking. At least there's an opportunity. But now, because of President Trump, the sheer economic and military might of our country, the U.S., there is hopefully the chance of peace. And above all, the president has a commitment to peace, frankly, unlike anything we have seen. And the American people appreciate that. In fact, Trump's approval rating, look at this, insider advantage. By the way, one of the few pollsters that gets Donald Trump and is able to poll Donald Trump correctly, showing Donald Trump's approval rating surging. This took place after the Alaska summit with voters under 65. But this isn't peace at all costs. At the end of the day, if Vladimir Putin doesn't want a deal, President Trump is committed to breaking Russia's piggy bank with very aggressive, dire consequences and tariffs on anyone and everyone that buys Russian energy. And the U.S. Senate will help in that regard as well.